Hey everybody, it's been a while. This video today is going to be focused on the piece Cielito Lindo. And the first thing that we want to do, of course, is make sure our cello is in tune. So especially A, D, and G strings. Those are the ones we'll be using today. Great. So let's take a look at some of the most important things of the piece before you play. Time signature, key signature. Time signature is 3/4, so we get 3 quarter notes per measure. And our key signature has 2 sharps in it, which means we're in the key of D major. So we have F sharp, 3rd finger on the D string, and C sharp, 3rd finger on the A string. Another fingering that you should keep in mind is our extended 4th finger on the G string, which is our C sharp. So we play this note once in the whole piece, and it's written in there for us, which is great. It has a ×4 symbol. So don't forget to extend that 4th finger to play C sharp instead of C natural. So looking at the first line of this piece, we notice big hairpins like this. Hairpins are basically crescendo, get really loud, and then decrescendo, get quiet. And we do this 3 times, so we have big swells in the beginning. And we have to really exaggerate those because this is the beginning of the piece. We grasp the audience's attention, right? So we start this down bow. Down bow, we typically start at the frog of the bow. And we're at a mezzo forte. You know, it's pretty strong, not too loud because we need to do that swell, right? So for example, the first 2 measures, we have open A, crescendo to our B, and then decrescendo. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, like that. Let's try it together. 1, 2, 3, 1, ready, go. 2, 3, nice. And then we do this again the next 2 bars. We have a 3, 4. Let's try those 2 notes together. So 3rd finger on the down bow. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Awesome. The next 2 bars, we have the same thing, but notice that last decrescendo we have lasts a longer period of time, so we have to be more gradual with this decrescendo. We can't just come down right away. Let me play it for you once. This is measure 5 on that 3rd finger, C sharp. So I kind of delayed my decrescendo to save some for that A we have at the end there. Let's put it all together. The first line. Let's take it a little under tempo first. So this is 100 beats per minute. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. So let's try it. This is just the first line of the piece. 1, 2, 3, 1, ready, go. 1, 2, 3. So if you need to go back and do that a couple times, please be my guest. In the playthrough video, we'll do it at the tempo that's written. So at the end of the line here, we see a little comma in there, which is our bowlift, right? So what a bowlift means, basically, if we're playing a down bow, and the next note is a down bow, we have to lift our bow back to the frog. So at the end of the line, we have 2 rests to do our bow lift, bring it back to the frog, set, and then start at measure 9 again. Now the next line is a little tricky because the rhythm is different than what we'd expect. We have a rest on the downbeat, so we have to count that silently in our head, play on the 2nd beat, and then look at that A on the 3rd beat. It ties over to the downbeat of the next measure, so it's a very cool rhythm pattern we have. So we have to be very careful about counting in our head, moving our bow on the 2nd beat instead of the 1st. So let me explain. So counting in my head, I'm going to count a big silent 1 on the 1st beats and make sure I either don't play because it's a rest, or I don't move my bow because it's a tie from the previous measure. Let me play once for you. So read along in your music. 1, 2, 3, 1, ready, go. Rest. Tie. 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 Right? So we have to remember that we tie over our notes to the next measure, we count our tied first beat, and then move our bow. And then keep in mind, at measure 14, we do move our bow on the first beat. So it's a little break in the pattern, so be aware of that. Let's try that line together. But let's try it a little slower so we can really get the gist of it. So remember, first finger on B, bow with the frog, and we have a rest on beat 1. 1, 2, 3, 1, ready, go. Rest. 1. So if you have the first 2 lines done, you're really on track. The rest of the piece is a little more straightforward, which is nice. Just don't forget 3rd finger on the A string, 3rd finger on the D string. Sometimes we have slurs that we really need to take into account. There's another one of these ties over into the downbeat at measure 34. See that in measure 33 we have 3 C sharps, and then the last one ties over to the downbeat of measure 34, and then we move into another slur. At measure 41, be aware of that forte. This is the first time we have a clear, just dynamic switch. We have all those hairpins in the beginning, and then back to mezzo forte, but now we're a notch higher at forte. So what does this mean? We have to use typically more bow and pressure on the string, but remember, we're not pressing to get that sound out. It's a faster bow and a more heavy arm. So think of it more as an act of gravity rather than pushing down like this. Also, I almost forgot to mention, near the bridge. So remember, of course, the further away we get from the bridge, the softer we are. So for this forte, we're going to get a little closer to the bridge. We're going to use a little more weight in our arm and a little more bow speed. Another thing I want to mention is a pretty small thing, but it'll help you in the long run if you use this rule throughout all your music. So this is at measure 57. We have an open A down to a 4th finger on the next string down, our D string, and then back to an A. And we don't want to be just lifting like this when we have something like that. So what I do is keep my 4th finger down before I even play. Right? That's much easier and makes me feel a lot more comfortable than going like this. Right? So we kind of want to keep our hands down as much as possible so that A, we're in tune a lot more often, and B, we have less movement, so it's a lot easier on us. Now at measure 63, we're kind of coming back down into that mezzo forte dynamic, very comfortable, solid, kind of reserved dynamic in relation to the forte. So over 2 bars, we have a gradual, and by the end of that, I'm still pretty solid, but you can definitely hear the change in dynamic. And then moving forward, we have some of those ties into the first beat of the next measure again. Also a familiar rhythmic pattern. And then at measure 69, we have a crescendo. And it doesn't look like part of the hairpin like before. It just says crescendo. So if it helps, maybe write in a crescendo on your music. And at the end of that line, measure 71, there's that C sharp I was talking about, so we really have to make sure we're doing our extended 4th finger. Right? If I didn't extend, it would sound like this. Just not very correct, so. Bum, bum. So it's just a down, right? And then we end the whole piece Forte at measure 73. So again, we're kind of closer to the bridge than we were before, and we're using more bow, and we're finishing strongly. Okay, I'll see you in the next video. We're gonna go through Cielito Lindo at 128 beats per minute.